that far from me. I wanna feel you in my arms again. And you come to me on a summer breeze, keep me warm in your love, then you softly leave. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? Is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn. 'Cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you and me. I believe in you. You know the door to my very soul. You're the light in my deepest, darkest doubt. You're my savior when I fall. And you may not think I care for you, when you know down inside that I really do. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? Is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn. 'Cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you and me. La 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 la. Come to me on a summer breeze, keep me warm in your love, then you softly leave. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? Is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn. 'Cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you and me. How deep is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn. 'Cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you and me. How deep is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn. 'Cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart, then you can start to make it better. Hey Jude, don't be afraid. You were made to go out and get her. The minute you let her under your skin, then you begin to make it better. And anytime you feel the pain, hey Jude, refrain. Don't carry sad song and make it better. Remember to let her under your skin. Then you begin to make it better, 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 make it body. You'll forget the sun in his jealous sky as we walk in fields of gold. So she took her love for to gaze a while upon the fields of barley. In his arms she fell as her hair came down among the fields of gold. If I can reach the stars, pull one down for you, shine it on my heart, so you could see the truth. And this love I have inside is everything it seems. But for now I find it's only in my dreams that I can change the world. I will be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world. And if I could be king, even for a day, I'd take you as my queen. I'd have no other way. And our love will rule in this kingdom we have made. Till then I'd be a fool, wishing for the day that I can change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world. Baby, if I could change the world. I could change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world. Baby, if I could change the world. Baby, if I could change the world. You're climbing mountains, I'm on a hill. past. I may be a fool to love by the rules, want it to last. If you ever have forever in mind, I'll be here and easy to find. If your heart isn't ready to lay down.
A very warm welcome. It is fantastic, even on this day, to see so many familiar faces. A lot of long-time friends and then some fantastic new friends, and what a blessing. I have no doubt that my dad is watching us today. He's seated somewhere with a glass of red wine in hand, and he is hoping for a day that is filled with song, music, lots of it, lots of great stories, a little bit of naughtiness, we all know Charl, and a whole bucket of love. And so that's really what we're going to look to achieve today, is celebrating the life of Charl David Adams. My dad, our Grizzly, and your friend. So with that, I want to just quickly look to the Celebration of Life program, where you will see that we're heading straight into Charl's love language, music. If you knew the man, that really was part of him from start to finish. And one of his favorite artists was James Taylor. And James Taylor was music that filled our home from the earliest of times. In fact, my brother had a little conversation with him just before in the hospital and said to him, you know, Dad, can you explain to me why you started playing James Taylor at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning? And if I get this right, he kind of looked at Dave and he said, well, because 5 a.m. was just a little bit too early. You know, so that was Charl. James Taylor filled our homes, and it's filled my family's hearts for many years. And from James Taylor, we're going to then head straight into a beautiful hymn, Amazing Grace, played by a newer friend, Hein Benz from Oasis. And we're privileged to have his talent shared with us today. So at this stage, over to you, JT. Why we're here today is he's touched your life one way or another. And we're just going to lean into some beautiful music and just feel the presence and the power of song. so as you know, my dad was a big believer in words. Spoken word, written word, he liked a lot of words. And I think possibly as does the rest of my family. So we feel that it's totally apt to have two really special friends today share some words with you. And I'm going to just quickly intro to them and then ask them to join us up front. David Whitelaw is a newer friend, a friend of 6 years of my dad's here from Oasis. But it's one of those deep friendships. Dare I call it a soulmate friendship? And I'll never forget David standing alongside my father's hospital bed and looking at us as a family standing around and saying, you know, Tamsin, I think it took me 85 years to find one of my best friends. And how I wish I could have walked the fullness of my life with him. That's a friend. We also have another special human joining us, Francois Human, who is a wonderful friend from teenage years at DF Milan Hogeschool, another Afrikaner who shares a love of that language and the deep topic conversations with my dad. They lost touch after high school and reconnected a few years ago and straight back to where they started, talking the hard, deep things and having a lot of laughs together as well. And so I'm going to ask David to join us, share some words. There was a beautiful pamphlet that was just given to each of you with a picture of Charl in yellow. That's from David. And after that, Francois is going to share as well, because as I said, words meant a lot to this man. All right, David.
You've got a privilege, a worse privilege than I have. Look what I'm looking at, and look what you've got to look at. But don't forget who you're looking at, Charl. You don't need me to tell you why we are here. And Tamsin has told us already that Charl was a wordsmith, a craftsman with words, and he loved words and beauty and song and joy and life, and he had a zest for life. He was like a scientist waiting for a new discovery and all kinds of things. So let me give you, as a scientist, two quick scientific words that you need to remember. A historian, which I've been a wannabe, is not here to judge the past, but to be an advocate for people who are no longer with us. And I'd like Charl to be his own advocate this morning. And I'd like him to have a word with you. By the way, you meet friends. Think about this. How quickly does the group of people around us, we all remember Charl, but we get on with life. And within 2 weeks, a lot of people have got on with life, and they don't mention Charl publicly. Well, I'd like him to take center stage this morning, and I think he's got one word to share with us. And I think what he'd like to say to preachers like me is, don't say a word, be a word. All right, how does that work? Here's the picture. How do you remember Charl? What word would you choose to picture him? There you are, think about it. Well, there's something on my sheet which you don't have, and I found the last one in my possession, which I think I have to thank Ziggy for. It's a little red coral seed. And if you go around the garden here, 2 years, April 2022, there's an Earth Day coral tree planted in the memory of Oasis residents. And Ziggy and I went and looked there this week. They don't have a single flower or seed. They're supposed to come later, but for the last 3 years, that plant has had, that tree, a beautiful tree, has had no flowers and no seeds. Not sure why. Now here, I want you to put your eye on Charl. And number two, this is what Charl nudged me this morning. He said, hey, you spent a few weeks thinking about who I am and what I've done. And see, you've missed something. I was a gardener.
Yeah.
And I loved seeds. And words were my seeds. And in fact, I'd like you to tell the folks, I am a seed. All right, now imagine Charl now. Look around you and what do you see? Husks, not seeds. Look around. All of us are characters, you know? A lot of us up there. And what we see every day, unfortunately, is the husks are cracking and creaking and wriggling and looking, giving trouble, and you feel like a husk and a has-been. Now, Charl wants you to know, I have a feeling, I can't prove this at all, it's my imagination in time, but I better leave that. Inside of you and me there is a seed. And I want you to imagine Charl this morning, a gardener where he is. I've got an idea it's a flourishing place, and the seeds and plants and flowers are not seeds and plants and flowers like here, but people. He loved people. And he flourished in conversation with people. He stimulated people, and he was stimulated by people. They gave him life, and he was life. And I want you to imagine Charl right now as a gardener in the midst of all right, we're here, and where do you think we live? Well, we live at Oasis, don't we? What is Oasis? Well, it's a departure lounge, isn't it? Yeah. But Charl would say, hey, wait a minute. It's a garden. It's a garden. He used to spend a lot of time, not at the piano, but gardening. And now I'd like you to take a minute and think of a few moments you spent with him and what happened. I can think of two. One, I was at Worms, and it was Max Dupree's granddaughter that he told us had passed away that weekend in a very sad, tragic accident. I'm not sure if the age of 19 or something, the weekend before. And it was one of the few times I saw Charl overcome with emotion publicly. And I got a picture of him and what he cared about. That's a memory that will not leave me. Another one is of a person he introduced also by the name of Quentin Adams, not a relative. Quentin Adams, who's a professor of psychology, I think, at the University of Stellenbosch at the time, and he introduced him to us as the shack builder, because that man, after a student tour, decided to go and live in Khayelitsha for a year, and he stimulated the building of shacks, and Charl got us, Worms, all of us, to sponsor one shack that cost $17,000. But what I remember is Quentin Adams, introduced by Charl, standing right here and saying, I went to Khayelitsha, and he said, people go away and say, you need to pray for that place. He said, you can't pray, you have to do something and be something. And he went to live there for a year. And I remember Charl, I saw Charl that day, and I said, he didn't see the poor, he saw people living in shacks, and he saw the one boy that stimulated Quentin Adams to start becoming a shack builder. And that was Charl, I think. And a few times he'd say to me, David, you know, we live in a privileged bubble. And we do. And he didn't say it like this. It's more the way he said it. He kind of said, do you always sleep well at night thinking about people just down the road here in Langer and Khayelitsha? To him, they were real people. All right, now we need to move quickly. And I want to say to you, what's the alternative? Here's what Charl resisted. He was bulldogmatic about not being dogmatic. He did not like dogmas or dictators or people that ruled your life. I think his passion was, you need to be you, David. Just you, that's enough. Be you. And what are the alternatives? I think most of us opt for, we've given up listening to news and we listen to propaganda. And we choose the caricatures and the cartoons and the sound bites that we like, that make us feel comfortable. And we see people as stereotypes, as cartoons, as cardboard characters, instead of as real people. And I want to suggest to you, here's where we need to let Charl take us around the garden where he is now and say to you, David, the secret, I think, is what I would imagine him saying to me is, you and I can talk about the world and all the problems of the world, but in the end, we've only got two, and that's you and me. You've got to change, and I've got to change. And if you're divided on the inside and you don't know who you are, you're not going to be any use to yourself or anyone else. So if you want to plant a seed, be a word, don't speak a word. I think that's what Charl would say.
Thank you, David. Okay, Francois, are you going to join us? Thank you.
Good morning to you all. Goeiemôre vir julle almal. Ek praat Afrikaans hier vandaan af verder, hoor. So die van julle wat nie verstaan nie, vra vir die Engelsman langs om te verduidelik. Ek het baie keer Charl se goed gelees en oor jare het ek met hom verskil oor goed en 7 jaar gelede toe besluit ek wel ek en Charl het nou tyd nodig om met mekaar te praat en ons het toe by mekaar gekom en begin gesels. En nou wil ek eers dit sê, as die mens Charl wil verstaan, daar gaan baie dinge van Charl gesê word vandag, maar ek dink van my kant af wil ek iets sê oor hoe ons Charl moet verstaan. Want uit baie gesprekke uit het ek iets begin verstaan van Charl. Wie is hy? Hoe lyk hy van binne? En ek wil 2 goed sê wat Charl se lewe dramaties beïnvloed het. En ons sien dit. Die eerste ene was ons geslag, die babyboomer geslag. Ons het in die 60er jare, begin 70er jare groot geword. En in daai tyd was ons almal, ons was moeg, bedoelende van oorlog. Die wêreld was in oorlog. Dit was die Tweede Wêreldoorlog, die Krimoorlog, die Koue Oorlog in 263 en ons het dit dalk nie verstaan nie, want ons maar in standaard 2 of standaard 3, maar ons het het gevoel, en julle onthou vir John F. Kennedy en Khrushchev, en toe kom die hele oorlog wat Amerika geskit het. En dit het 'n merk gelaat op die wêreld, want that was the turning point of civilization, modern civilization as we know it. That was the turning point, and I think the high end of it was at Woodstock, when musicians came together and celebrated future, and their mantra in that time was make love, not war. And I think that left a mark not only in Charl's life, but in every one of us' lives. Maak vrede. Moenie oorlog maak nie. En hoe hy dit gevat het, dit was musiek, it was music. It was color, you remember. It was color, it wasn't black and white or grey. It was color, everything was color. Flowers, the flower people, the flower power. And you remember the sign? It's this way around, okay? And it's Venceremos, we shall overcome. And that was the time that we as youngsters, and I've got a lot of my friends here, my matric friends, and school friends who were with him in school and at school, at that stage, which shared a world which we didn't really understand. But I think in years to come, it grew in every one of us. What did that time do? It made us skeptical about the establishment. And that was Charl. He was skeptical about the establishment. And he couldn't, I think it was difficult for him to understand power as it was exerted at that stage or at that time. En ek dink dit het hom gemaak wie hy is. Nou baie van ons sit hier vanoggend en ons is geraak deur daai tyd. Ons nie alles verstaan nie. Ons het hy Jude gesing, garaatsparties toe gegaan, die girls gevry. Almal het op hy Jude gedans van 'n 7,5 minute lank. Die tweede ding wat vir Charl getref het, en ongelukkig was dit 'n gebeurtenis, it was an happening which left a very deep scar in his life. And that was the assassination of Anton Lubowski. If you knew Charl, I can remember that on one occasion, was here in the hall here, we had a whole discussion on Anton Lubowski and the murder of Anton Lubowski. And that thing had an impact on him because what he thought, the establishment had now really underwritten, if I can say it, what he believed all the time. And that's how I knew Charl. With discussions, we had many coffees together, many discussions together, sat together, and just discussed life. Now, he was interesting. And I think if I ask my matric friends here, my fellow matriculants, they'll tell you, he was a little bit controversial even from school time. But he was a colorful guy, an interesting person, and you can talk to him. And what they've said about him is that Charl loved words through. You had to keep all your faculties together if you go with him in an argument or in a discussion. When I was in hospital with Debbie and the children on the 23rd of April, I asked Charl, Adelaide was there that same day, I asked Charl, do you hear me? And I took his hand and he gave me a hard, a genuine man's shake. Hy het my hand gedruk. Adelaide het ook vir my gesê later. En toe sê ek vir hom, Charl, ek wil vir jou 'n psalm lees. Die psalm van Dawid. En met daai psalm wil ek vanmiddag of vandag afsluit oor Charl se lewe. Toe ek vir hom sê, Charl, ek gaan nou vir jou Psalm 23 lees, toe druk in my hand. Ek het dit vir Debbie agterna gesê, het jy dit gesien? Want wat toe gebeur het, is nou lees ek vir hom, die Here is my herder. Dan druk in my hand. En hierdie Psalm van Dawid het ons geleer as kinders as 'n resitasietjie. Maar hoekom is dit een van die mees geliefde psalms wat mense altyd na luister? Why? You know why? Because the underlying dynamic of the psalm, dit gryp na die dieptes van menswees. Dawid was 'n herder en Dawid was 'n koning. As jy weer Psalm 23 lees, verstaan dit. Dawid was 'n herder en Dawid was 'n koning. En nou sê Dawid, as ek terugdink aan my lewe, as 'n herder, ek het skape opgepas. En daar's 'n paar goed wat ek weet van herderskap. Die skape is van my afhanklik. En dan het Dawid, en toe het Dawid geskryf. Hy sê, die Here is my herder, ek kom niks kort nie. Victor Frankl het gesê, die diepste drang van 'n mens is oorlewing, survival. En as Dawid skryf, die Here is my herder, ek kom niks kort nie, dan gryp hy na survival, die survival mode van humanity. It's not a recitation, it's an existential statement. Hy sê, hy bring my by waters waar daar vrede is. All people in life seek peace. And David said, if I think about my shepherd, he brought me to places where there's peace. I could live in peace. Everybody gets tired. Life can make you tired. Hy sê, hy bring my by waters waar daar vrede is. Hy laat my lê in groenweivelde waar daar rus is. Dawid sê, as herder, sy herder, is die ene wat vir hom rus gegee het. Hy sê, hy het my nuwe krag gegee. When you're down, we heard it from James Taylor just now, and you're out, you need someone to care for you and to rely on. And then he said, and David said, and if I go through dangers, as ek deur die donkerte gaan, en deur die gevare gaan, hoef ek nie bang te wees nie, want my herder is met my. En oor Charl se lewe, vir julle om huis toe te vat en vir my ook. Charl se lewe, sy geestelikheid, sy spiritualiteit het op 'n ander vlak gelê. Charl se lewe en sy spiritualiteit, and I don't think we always understood it from Charl, was there are two things, reg en onreg. Dit was vir hom diep liggend. And therefore, when you sat down with a discussion with him, or you were in communication with him, that topic would always come to the fore. Hy sal altyd ergens daaroor praat. Wat is reg en wat is verkeerd? En hierdie agterdog oor die establishment, hierdie kritiese oor die establishment, hierdie siniesheid oor die establishment, was altyd so half in die background. Dis wie ons is. Dis wie ons is. Ons kan ons nie losmaak van die 60er jare nie. Ons kan nie. Dis waar ons groot geword het. Dit is hoe ons geslag het besluit. Die einde is die einde. Die tyd gaan verander. Daar gaan veranderinge kom vorentoe in ons land. En dit is wie Charl was, en ek sluit af. As ek afsluit, dan skryf ek dit oor hierdie reg en onreg, wat die Here sê in sy woord, is dat ware godsdiens, is wanneer ons die reg en die onreg kan onderskei, en die reg kan leef. Ons het dit gehoor net nou. Ek sluit af met hierdie woorde. Dawid skryf oor sy koningskap, né? Ons het nou gepraat oor sy herderskap. Die herderskap gaan oor nou. Maar sy koningskap gaan oor eendag. Hy sê, U laat my by 'n feesmaal aansit. En ek wil vandag, ons het dit net nou, Tamsin het vir ons gesê, hy sit ergens met 'n glasie wyn nou. Kyk oor ons. Rooiwyn. U laat my by 'n feesmaal aansit, terwyl my teestanders moet toekyk. Ek word oorlaai, en dis sy boodskap. Ek gee dit uit my hart uit vir julle vanoggend. Dis sy boodskap vir julle. Ek word oorlaai, sê hy, Dawid, met hartlikheid. Ek word oorlaai met hartlikheid. U gee vir my U goedheid meer as wat ek kan verstaan. En ek sal tuis wees. En ek is tuis in die huis van die Here tot in lengte van dae. Mag die Here vir julle elkeen ryklik seën. Kom ons sit so en ons sluit ons oë. Hemelse Vader, baie dankie vir Charl, vir sy lewe, vir sy menswees, en dit wat almal van ons vandag van hom hoor en vier. Laat hierdie dag vir ons 'n onvergeetlike dag wees, waar ons nie net onsself weer ontmoet nie, maar ook 'n vriend wat saam met ons geleef het. In Jesus naam. Amen. Ek sê vir julle baie dankie.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Francois. Some beautiful words. Hopefully we can all ponder on them as we head home later today and take them into your lives. And when you're sitting thinking about Charl, maybe it'll tweak a little thought for you 2 weeks, 2 years from now. So thank you. We're going to do something slightly different. So you may or may not know that all of the grandchildren called Charl Grizzly, okay, which means that we did too. And so on your program, you'll see that it says a grizzly gift. And the other thing that has been described beautifully by everyone who's been up here so far is that my dad loved his garden, and he loved nature, and he loved flowers. And so I'm going to ask his 3 youngest grandchildren, Bella, Reese, and Holly, to join us, and they're going to share a grizzly gift with you. They're going to pass it down the aisles, and if then you could pass the baskets back to them, which is a packet of flower seeds. And so our hope with this is that you will take them home, You can stop on the side of the road and throw them somewhere random. You can take them into your house and throw it in your garden. You can pop it into a pot plant. It doesn't matter what you do with it. But hope for a place that you'll be able to see them bloom and flourish. And so that, again, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years from now, when there's something beautiful growing in your garden along the side of the road that you walk every day, you will see a colorful flower, and it will remind you of my dad. It will remind you of Grizzly. So grab a packet. Don't be precious about which one you get. I don't think we have time for that. Hein. And, just, embrace the fact that this was someone who genuinely took pleasure in things of life and things of color. And a quick thank you to everyone for wearing so much color today. We didn't quite know if you would wear a little scarf, pin a little brooch, put on a headband, but it seems like everyone has really taken it to heart, so much appreciated. All right. Once that is completed, I'm going to ask my siblings to join me. We're going to head straight into, we're going to try head into 3 little tributes from the siblings. I'm my father's favorite eldest daughter. But I do have my father's favorite youngest daughter, Chantal, joining as well. And then I have my father's favorite son. He just kind of owns that space, I guess. David joining as well. And the 3 of us are going to try and share a little bit. I'll give you a bit of insight, share a little bit of our heart. I don't think you can do it justice in this speech, and we don't want to keep you here for too long. There's some good tea and coffee and cake and wine to drink afterwards, as Charl would want. But guys, I think if you want to pop up, we're almost there with the seeds. I think Chantal is still going to go first. Does that make sense? Okay. And I think that will be followed on by Dave and then myself. And sadly, folks, it's not open mic, so none of you get a chance. But if you have colorful jokes to tell, you're welcome to tell them to us later, because my dad would have enjoyed that. He was known for a little naughty. How are we doing, guys? What do you think, Reese? Almost? No, Reese is giving me halfway. Don't rush it. No, okay, don't rush it. Right, let the kids do their thing. I must admit, I was having a little giggle. I'll share a little inside joke with you that's family. You will see my beautiful mother and beautiful siblings in their blues and pinks, in wonderful sort of, look like they fit together beautifully, and there's a code to the attire. And then I'm in green. Well, apparently this is a theme, because at my brother's wedding to his lovely bride Claire, I missed the memo that said we're going to, as family, all be in shades of soft blue and green. Didn't get it or ignored it. I'll never own up to what happened. But as I arrived on the day in my red dress, caused a little bit of consternation. So I've been cropped out of certain photos, apparently, because I'm in my red dress. All right, guys, are we good? Miss Holly, how are you doing? All right. I think Holly's job done. All right, guys, you want to take your seats? And if you didn't get a seed packet, we can always mail you one. All right. I'm going to step aside, and I'm going to hand over to my siblings.
Sure. Hi, everyone. As everyone said, my father, he loves words. So does my sister. She loves words. So we have a relatively loud and full family. And funny enough, I'm actually one of the quietest. So this is not the easiest of things for me to do. It is hard. So I ask if you can bear with me. The tears will come. But I'm going to try and get through as much as I can. So when I think of my dad, and every speech is going to say the same thing. He was eccentric in his dress. One day you would find him in the most fashionable outfit. The next day he would be the Oros man, wearing orange pants, orange shoes, and an orange top. The next day he would be in a safari suit. And when I say safari suit, I mean green socks up to his knees, the whole toot. Which we did at one point have to decide to hand it along without his agreement, which he was very unhappy about, but he did get over it, as he had to. And then if I think more, who was Pops, Charl, Charles, Charlie, Boktrol? He had so many names I probably don't even know. But he lived life to the fullest, and he unapologetically lived it his way, truly himself. One of the biggest things he taught me, and I'm sure my siblings would say the same, is to be yourself. Be true to yourself, and then your heart's at peace. He was one of a kind. He was extremely talented. I'm not sure how many of you know that when he played that piano, it was by ear. So one day when I'd rock up at his house and he had listened to Shallow, and he'd listened to the song a few times, played around on the guitar a few times, and then within an hour he played the song and sang it. Same with the piano. Highly talented musically. Intelligent, as you were saying, intelligent. There wasn't any topic, any conversation he couldn't have. He was up to date on everything. And yes, you needed to know your facts. But one thing I always knew growing up is that it didn't matter what situation I was in, even if it wasn't the greatest of situations. I could go to him and I could tell him, and he was able to set aside that he was my father and just give me the right advice. A very special man. He was very hardworking. He never let his family be without. And I think the biggest thing is he was a humanitarian. He lived every day thinking about others less fortunate. How can he make someone else's life better? He struggled with having, to your point, that you're in this beautiful bubble. He struggled that he lived in this beautiful bubble, and yet, in our population, most are lucky if they have a tin roof. So from very young, we were part of soup kitchens, with my mom being involved in our home, which led to then a home being formed where, if I was not mistaken, 20 boys from the street were homed and put through the home, put through school, changed their lives. I actually found a photo when we were putting all the photos together for the slideshow, and my dad always wanted me to try and find this photo, and I couldn't. And sadly, I only found it now. But it was in 1992, so this was in a time when it wouldn't have been really appreciated. But there I am with my very dark skin, as you can all see, with 20 African boys in a pool with me, swimming. And that was my father, that was my mother. He believed it was right, so didn't care what others thought. He was going to do what he wanted to do and treat people the way they meant to be taught. Funny enough, I grew up and I didn't know apartheid existed. I didn't know there were different races. When I was in high school, in standard 9, and that was in 98, someone said something, and I was shocked. And that's because my father didn't bring us up, my mother included, with things like that. It didn't matter. I have blonde hair, my sister has black hair. I have light skin, someone else has dark skin. I have blue eyes, you've got brown eyes. And that's the beauty behind who he was. It was never about an appearance. It was never about the outside. It's always about the inside, your soul, your heart. And what you stand for. And I will forever take that from him. And he always had a voice for those that didn't have a voice or weren't allowed to have a voice. And I kind of feel like I've taken that on from him. And it does come with its challenges, because by default you get pushback. But I am glad that that's something that he actually installed in me, because we need more of that. We need more beauty in who people are internally and less about externally. And I'll forever be grateful for that. Sorry, I'm probably talking too much now after saying I'm the quietest of family. Excuse me. And then for my life, what he taught me was to be independent. So it was extremely important to my father that both my sister and I, as females, I mean, he would have just expected of my brother to be independent, he's a male, that we could be independent, stand on our own 2 feet, look after ourselves, be able to get through things. And then if you have a partner, it's because you want that partner. They're an added value in your life, and it's not because you need someone. You know, at the time I thought, when I was studying and I was told I had to take a student loan out, and I thought, you know, this is just so unfair because he's paid for other people's studies, and yeah, I'm his daughter and I have to take a student loan out. I mean, this is just terribly unfair. And I probably voiced it quite a few times when he just went, well, I can't pay for it, so if you want to study, that's what it is. So it was what it was. And I thought the loan had been taken out, and I did my studies and qualified and everything. I started working, and then I was ready to start paying off my loan. And when I went to the bank, there was no loan. He had never taken out a loan. He had paid from them from day one, but wanted us to, I can't speak for my sister and brother's journey, but wanted me to think there was, so that I took pride in what I was doing and didn't take it for granted. Not that I would have, but he wanted to instill that in, that you work hard and then you reap what you sow. And through my studies, when I would have moments of thinking I'm going to fail, you know, he was at home at the time, and I finished my quota of hugs every day, and I would have to take from the next day's hugs quota, because he would tell me my hugs were over. And his words were always, Chantal, what you put in is what you get out. So, you know, so throughout my life, I've had this force behind me, teaching me to be independent, self-sufficient, but to love the beauty of humans and those in my life for who they are, and not what I get from them, but for who they are. And for that, I will always be grateful. And then, just to finish up, these last 2 months, I feel extremely blessed to have had the time that I had with my father. The first 3 weeks, when we thought it was really the first stroke and then he was going to get better, I mean, I sat for hours on end in the hospital with him. I got kicked out twice, which we both thought was quite funny, and we had a laugh about that. But during those times, you know, sometime at one stage when I got him earphones, he sat listening to his music, as we all know, that's what drives him, and I was doing stuff on my phone, and we sat for 2 hours in silence, but we were both smiling. And by the end of, sadly, by the end of it, obviously we realized he was extremely sick. But by the end of it, I was kicked out 5 times. And I think right now he'd be laughing about that because he didn't know that the stat went from 2 to 5. But what I take from that time is I had such amazing conversations, deep conversations that I don't think my father could have with me prior. He was a teacher in life. He was very knowledgeable, wise. But as I'm not sure either of you said, I think you said when you were in the hospital or in the Worms, when you saw him emotional about Max Dupree's daughter, he didn't like to feel the emotion. That was hard for him. And through the time that I had with him in the hospital, he shared all the emotion. And we laughed, and we cried, and we told each other everything. And it was special. And I think that's the saddest part for me, is that everything else he gave me was special in a very different way, and I'll always hold it close to my heart. But those 6 weeks were special. In an emotional way. And I'll hold those close to my heart in a different way. So, just to finish off, I just want to get the order of his loves right. So, his soul and his loves started with 1, my mom. 2, debatable between music and garden. I'm not sure. 2, music. 3, I had claviers. And then 4... Oh. That's quite possible, he got kicked out the clavier club. And then 4 to 6 is myself, my brother, and my sister. And I'll leave that debate for after today as to who was 4, 5, and 6. But then to my pops, love you lots. From me, from Bella, and from your Bellas that you called us. Thank you.
Hello everybody. When I jotted down a few notes, I was going to start with good morning, but the one who doesn't speak the most just made sure it's afternoon. So good afternoon everybody. And I hate to disappoint. I'm sure many of you, when you see somebody come and stand up here wearing this jacket, they expect a show to unfold and everybody to have a rock and roll time. Unfortunately, I certainly don't have my dad's talents and gifts in that regard. So I'm just representing my dad, I guess, with a very colourful part of his life. Recently, I was thinking about how many people, through different stages in their life, they get to pick and change their heroes as they go along. And then it dawned on me that I never had to do that because I had my dad. When I think about my dad, when I think about my pops, a word that certainly doesn't come to mind is boring. You've heard it, that it's possibly getting a bit boring now. He was extremely colourful, both literally and figuratively, eccentric, fun-filled, super caring, as you heard a lot today, passionate about absolutely everything that he did, humble man, smart man. And he had a great sense of humour. He was also quite okay with the joke being on him. You also heard it as well. He also had a strong opinion, which I think was one of his best and strongest traits as well, and something that I'll certainly remember him for. Some of the talents and interests that, again, there's a bit of a recurring thread. My dad's love for music. Tam stole my little story about I was catching up with him in hospital recently, because there was never a moment in our house when there wasn't music happening in some other form. If he wasn't playing, he was writing music, and there was certainly background music 24/7, arguably louder than some neighbors probably would have liked, and certainly way earlier than I would have liked after a big Friday night. Outdoors, I think if anybody was to give Keith Kirsten a go, it might have been my dad. In fact, I think he might have even had a little bit of Clivier envy if he saw my dad's garden. One thing that came to mind, talking about garden, my dad was very proud of his lush grass and obviously beautiful plants and all the rest. And I recall back at our forever house, good old 18 Crunendale in Edgemead, and my dad, moles had taken over half my dad's garden. So, being a lighty, I think I must have been Reese, my son's age, a little youngster. But, you want to do good for your dad. It's my hero after all. And he's at work and I'm back from school. I'm going to help him. So it was a no-brainer to me. You just pop through to the garage. You go get the shovel. Yeah, got all the little mole mounds to the side, and you throw a bit of HGH down all over in the different spots. And, Bob's your uncle. I've helped my dad. So he comes home from work that evening and said, Pops, come check what I've done here. I've sorted out the moles. I've gone, and his whole grass just dead. HGH everywhere. Yeah, so anyway, I tried. Sorry, Pops. Then words and writing. So, poems, music again. He wrote a lot of music. In fact, he wrote a lot of songs. And because it was something and he did it really just for the love and for the self-enjoyment. And he actually went and produced his own CDs, which every now and again we'd let him play. It might not have been our favorite taste of music. Groen Pietersili, whatever that means, was one of his, I think that was the name of the CD. Maybe some of his old schoolmates would I can't pronounce those words. Music was certainly a big part of his life, and he was extremely talented at it. In terms of being talented, he didn't always have to be talented to do things. He was willing to try anything. And when I was putting a few notes down last night, I remember coming home the one evening looking for my old man, and I couldn't find him. But then I ventured through to the bathroom, as you eventually do, and there's my old man. He's busy reading a book on how to tile a bathroom, and there's cement there, and he's got the tile cutter, and he's literally busy tiling. So I don't know if that's because he ran out of budget and he couldn't afford to get a tiler, or if he just really enjoyed the challenge of life. So that's the kind of thing that he would do time and time again. I've got so much to be thankful for in my life, to my father, my pops, and as well as obviously my mom. My dad was an out-and-out family man. I'll just confirm the order of love quickly for you. So we all agree my mom was number one, and it must be said it was beautiful to watch how that was the case right up until the end. I think he loved having his kids with him. In fact, I know he did. But if there was a hand going, he certainly wanted my mom's right until the end. And then, to state the obvious, I was second. So a true family man. Many of you wouldn't know, but more certainly in my youth, my dad, he had 2 jobs. He'd come home from a good hard-working day, only for me to be waiting with ball in hand. I don't think he got to put the car off, and he started his second job as my coach. And for the next hour or two, we'd be on the field. He'd be teaching me how to kick a ball, catch a ball, probably do push-ups if I'm dropping the ball. We'd play Dreyfins for his Afrikaans mates. In English, it's gaining grounds. We were lucky we had the big field in front of the house. And we'd play for hours. And regardless of how tired my dad might have been, I wouldn't have known at the time. I just recall him always being happy and available to spend that time with me. With that came my biggest supporter. My dad was literally my biggest supporter. A big part of my life was sport, and I remember you know, going and playing at away games all over the Western Cape. The first thing I'd do running onto the field was look left and right, and I'm not sure if I can remember a game that my dad literally wasn't there, and that always just put me at peace, and I knew that I could just go out there, do my best, and I'd have as decent a game as possible, wanting to make my dad really, really proud. He was also a very honest man, so he would let me know if I didn't have a great game, and areas where I could go and improve. I'm also thankful to my dad for letting me go and pick up my matric dance partner in his car, which might sound, you know, that was just for the pre-party before we actually went out. It might sound a bit weird, but it's a thank you and a sorry all at the same time, because I managed to write off my mom's car at midnight the night before. So to go to him and ask him if I could borrow his other car to go and pick up my partner for the night was quite a fun thing. We've spoken about my dad's care and compassion, and he taught me that, you know, backing my mom with the most wonderful project, helping out the homeless and the street kids. My dad, he taught me to be positive, to live life, to enjoy life, and to be confident out there. The love and support for my family, Cleval, Reese and Halls. He gave us immense support and he loved us dearly. And the kiddos knew if he walked in there, the first thing that they had to do was give him a big, big grizzly squeeze, right? And whilst it was the grizzly demand, he knew how much you guys actually wanted him to demand it. I was very fortunate towards the end. My mom and I, we got my dad home to their apartment, knowing that we didn't have long, but we thought we might have a couple of months at best. But things didn't go according to plan, and that ended a few hours later. We actually had to rush my pops back to the hospital. But I'm forever grateful for those few hours, even though he really was not in good shape and he just had a third stroke. But he got to see my kids, and it was a beautiful moment for our family. I'll cherish the words that he shared with us forever. We love you too, Pops. Memories. Let's just go down memory lane quickly. I won't be too long, but it must have started in the garage. My old man was always up to something. If he wasn't building furniture or doing something, he was there. And music again came in strong. I remember shadowing my dad, probably getting in the way or whatever the case may be, but it would be playing Sting and Eric Clapton and Mike and the Mechanics and Elton John. And I was there. Like I say, probably sawing the wrong piece of wood or getting in the way, but it was magical to have spent that father-son time together. Going to Newlands was an absolute highlight when my old man could take me to go watch Province beat the Sharks. Sorry, the Warrens, but it just happened more often than not. Biltong and Coke. There was always a real big highlight for me as a lighty. Benson and Hedges, some of my old schoolmates. Yeah, we'll remember the old days when you could still take a squattle, and so a lot of entertainment there. Just being at home as a family. My dad would just randomly pick up the guitar and start playing, and Tamsin and I would break into songs. Tamsin would get the words wrong. I would probably be off key. Unfortunately, my mom and Chantal didn't sing. Yeah. Playing sports was a big thing. So regardless of what was on TV, my dad was always a sport. We'd be drawing out the chalk Wimbledon courts, and in front of the house. He'd be up for anything. He somehow still had the upper hand on that one table tennis serve, which I never quite worked out to the end. Spur, that was another one. Can you believe it? A memory. I mean, my kids wouldn't understand this. But that was our annual highlight. If I passed school, I got to go to Spur.
How did you get an A?
Yeah, well, he incentivized me with Chico the Clown. If I got a C+, I could get that. So he understood our strengths and weaknesses, right? On that note, actually, I do have a little bug that I need to take up with my pops, because I'm pretty sure I got a student loan to pay off. And I'm not sure if that's because my results weren't quite as good. Annual holidays, we heard earlier, my dad, he really did work really, really hard all year long. We never went wanting. We had absolutely everything and more. But some of the memories, the rubber duck on the back with our big 30 Yamaha horsepower, which, whether we were going to enjoy our time with friends and family at the Breda with the Joneses, or whether we were at Keerbooms, or we were going into the deep sea of Mossel Bay, where all the girls are crying because my dad thinks that he's got a sailboat that can go into the deep ocean with, huge swells. But no, there we were. But he reminded us that if the engine cut, we had 2 oars, so we would have been absolutely fine. Getting back to shore would definitely not have been a problem. My dad was full of experiences. He took risks. He didn't overthink things. We went to a place called Mana Pools in Zimbabwe as our last proper family holiday together. Firstly, the city slickers. We're going, and it was properly remote in the national park. So the dongas and all the rest that we had to go through, I'm not sure what my dad was thinking taking us there in his David Cromer Roy combi bus. But we somehow made it there. Also only to find out that where we'd be staying would be just the little tent next to our Roy combi bus. Everybody else, of course, properly in their 4x4s with tents on top. But no, my dad just, let's pitch a tent. The fact that they were lying in the camp the day before didn't really mean much. It'll be fine. On that point, it was the only park where you could actually go and walk without a ranger, of which my dad thought, well, I mean, if that's allowed, then it must be perfectly fine. My mom wasn't too sure. She was like, no, my mom was a little bit more skeptical. And he said, no, I spoke to the rangers. And the only thing that they said is, if we see a herd of elephants, we must just try and keep a bit of a wide berth. They can be a little bit dangerous at the best of times. So there we are. We set off. Chantal doing what she did best back then, sleeping in the tent with the lovebirds. And we set off. Myself, my folks, and Tam. And it wasn't long in. And what do we see? A whole group of elephants. And I don't know. I just wasn't feeling at ease with this whole thing. And I remember continuously looking back, till eventually one actually started charging us, and I just got straight into stride, very selfishly, and I just started sprinting as fast as I can, saying, it's charging, and this thing literally was charging us, probably for at least 50 meters or so, and it literally stopped, probably from myself to Tamsin away initially, going absolutely mad. And I distinctly remember to this day my dad being the head of the house, just trying to keep everybody calm, even though that could have been the end there and then. I was saying every word in the book. Tamsin was praying, and my mom was threatening divorce. I think you ended up getting a little elephant ring or something, which is one of the wonderful memories that we had. But yeah, so my dad was eccentric and lived a really full and passionate life. Pops, I'm going to miss you a hell of a lot. I've got to take that Braitong from you now. I've owned it. We'll miss you at all those family events. And thank you for being my number one fan always. Keep entertaining up there. Let your love flow. I'll love you forever.
Okay, folks, I appreciate all the good listening ears, as they say, when we've got folks who are getting wiggly in their chairs. Honestly, my siblings have said it all to describe the man that my dad was. I don't think I need to add any more color to that. What I will share with you is that over the last few days, I've been thinking a little bit about how am I going to connect with my dad? How am I going to find my dad and reconnect with his memory when I'm far away from this place? Because I go back to Houston, I go back to Texas, and he feels alive here. This is where I know him. And it's had me just pondering on a few things that he's cared about and so the man that he is. And that's the man that's been described to you. But, you know, I realized very quickly that my dad is a total kaleidoscope of interests and fascinations and loves. And that, when I go home, and my heart will always be here, but my physical home is in Texas. When I go home, you know, I'm going to find my dad when I'm sitting in that yellow chair in our back garden, having a glass of wine. I'm going to find my dad when I'm walking my dog through the neighborhood and I see a beautiful flower in bloom and I just really want to send him a photo of it and say, oh, Dad, you'd appreciate this. I'm going to find my dad when I'm listening to a song and it speaks to my heart. I'm going to find my dad when I hug my husband, who he opened his heart to so beautifully, Kurt. And I'm definitely going to find my dad when I look into the eyes of my two, Isla and Kai, my beautiful children, because, you know, for my dad, the man that he was, the man that he will always be, his greatest legacy is his family. And so all I'm going to tell you is that I knew a father that was there for me in and through everything, who liked to push me, who liked to question me, who liked to hug me, who liked to sing with me, and who just loved me. And I couldn't have asked for more. And so when you think about my dad, and when you look for Charl in your life, just think about all the things you've heard. And remember the man that we love so dearly. So to copy Dave's words, because it's really some of the last words that I had with my dad as I was walking to get on a plane to head back to Texas. Because when I returned the second time, he unfortunately couldn't speak anymore. And so the last words that my dad and I shared was, I was walking out the hospital room, and I looked at him and I said, Dad, I love you forever. He said, I know, my babe. I said, no, Dad, I need you to know I love you forever. And he said, I know, my big girl. So those are the words that are very in my heart. And look, I want to thank you for giving us the space to share, and I want to thank you for wearing the color. And I hope that we can break some bread together, some good eats, some drinks. We're going to throw the slideshow back on so you can hear the songs he loved. But before we do any of that, my mom's giving me big deer eyes because I was about to lead into something that she thought I'd forgotten. And this is honestly the most important part, actually. Before I do that, Mom, you're right. We're going to let Charl close out today because he liked to have the last word, as you'll know. And so here he is. And if you've ever wondered why you take those family photos and those family videos, this is a beautiful, beautiful example of why. Because this was my mum on her iPhone capturing her love of 50 years. Take us home, Dad.
When you're feeling so, when tears are in your eyes, I will gladly go I'm on your side.
I'm lost in a daydream, dreaming about my bungalow joy. And if any time it really on my side, it's one of those days for taking a walk outside. I'm going to take a walk in the sun and photo my face on somebody's newborn window. I've been having a sweet dream. I've been dreaming since I woke up today. It's starting me in my sweet dream. 'Cause she's the one that makes me feel this way. And even if time is passing me by in line, I couldn't care less about the dues they say I got. Tomorrow I'll pay the dues for dropping my load and find the face for somebody big toe. And even if time is passing me by in line, I couldn't care less about the dues they say I got. Tomorrow I'll pay the dues for dropping my load and find the face for being a sleepy little toe. What a day for a daydream.
All right, thanks guys. Let's go feel the sunshine. Cheers.
I remember the days of my life. I recall faces, mostly yours. Magic moments, life was a mystery. There's no place on earth that we'd rather be. Moving up, going through some changes, storing up the memory. Then you gave me light of my life. I always gave the best I could give. Sometimes it never seemed like enough, but we never quit when the going got tough. You remember the way it used to be, never counting the cost, was a matter of trust. Covenant cut, with love was for life. I still bear the scar. Do you still carry the knife? I remember the days of my life. I recall the faces, mostly yours. Magic moments, light, still a mystery. There's no place on earth that we'd rather be. This is my life, and I'm passing on the memory.
When you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand, and nothing, well, nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call up my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running. Oh yeah, babe, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got a friend.